All right, moving on then to our next speaker. So we have with us here today Senator Rogner from the state of Ohio, who was the sponsor of the Counseling Compact bill there for the 2022 legislative session in Ohio. So Senator Rogner is currently serving her first term in the Ohio Senate after serving 4 terms in the Ohio House from 2011 to 2018. And then previously from that, served as an elected member of the Hudson City Council from 2005 to 2010. Prior to her time in public office, Senator Rogner worked as a management consultant at McKinsey & Company, serving global clients on performance and strategic issues. She was also a field engineer and project manager for Westinghouse Power Generation Service Division. Senator Rogner has a Bachelor of Science degree in Mechanical Engineering from Tufts University and holds a Master of Business Administration degree from the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. So we welcome Senator Rogner, and we'll turn it over to you for comments. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me here today. I appreciate that. I appreciate your flexibility in terms of timing as well. So as you mentioned, I've been in the legislature now for 12 years, 8 years in the House, and I'm in my 4th year in the Ohio Senate. This last General Assembly in Ohio works on a 2-year cycle, so each biennium. A passion of mine has been working on occupational licensure reciprocity. So I introduced a bill that would be full-on occupational licensure reciprocity for all licenses in Ohio, and we have like over 640 of them. But that bill was a big bite of the apple. It was in many ways too big. Although that bill got through the Senate recently and is now percolating over in the House. But in the meantime, I was introduced to, also in the last General Assembly, I was introduced to the Nurses Compact. So occupational licensure for nurses. And I started that bill last year. The Ohio Nurses Association opposed it. So I was like, shoot, it makes all kinds of sense. All these states are allowing these nurses to practice between states, and why on earth would they not be on board with this? But I worked with them, and then this General Assembly, I reintroduced that bill with Senate Bill 3. And now the Ohio Nurses Association came on board as a proponent. We ended up having everybody as proponents for this bill, and it ended up passing virtually unanimously in the Ohio Senate. I was like, well, that was cool. So we got the nurses done. And then the next thing you know, we did the physical therapists. So that was Senate Bill 5. That got passed. And then I did Senate Bill 6, which was for physicians. And the doctors loved that too, all the hospitals. Everyone's coming on by now. At this point, we've got 3 of them passed. The legislature is kind of getting used to, yeah, this makes sense. We love this. And each subsequent bill we passed for as far as compacts went faster and faster. Senate Bill, or Teresa Gavarone did the PSYPAC for psychologists. Then there was a speech and audiology one. Then I introduced another one. So my 4th compact was for occupational therapists. And then the last one I did was for counselors, and that was Senate Bill 204. And that was, of course, to facilitate the practice of licensed professional counselors. And we would love to have been one of the first 10 states, because it takes the 10 states, of course, to make a compact effective or initiate it. And also those top 10 states are part of the rulemaking process. But we were shortly thereafter. So I think the 10th state joined in April, right, or passed our legislation in April. And I think we passed ours in like May or June of this year. So we're really happy to do so. And as I said, when it came to this particular bill, the counseling compact, I would say this was probably the easiest one we had to pass, just because it was one of the last ones that we did. And at this point, every member of the House and Senate, Republican and Democrat, they were on board. They're like, oh yeah, we know what that is. Oh yeah, the Department of Defense supports it, and so does everyone else, because it provides economic mobility for the professionals. It increases access to care for the patients. It really truly is a win-win. So while I was listening to the earlier conversation, you certainly can use a lobbyist if you like to, and they're wonderful people and they're very knowledgeable. If you go to a state where you've had several of these already passed, you don't need a lobbyist because and my lobbyists will be very mad I said that probably, but the legislators are going to be familiar with these compacts, and for the most part, they fly through. We haven't had any problem with any compact since the nurses compact. That was the first one. I mean, to get that one through Senate Bill 3, that was a battle, but again, eventually when the ONA became proponents of it, that one flew through, and then the others did as well. So it's smart. It's good for the states. It's good for the professionals. It's great for the patients. On this particular bill, Senate Bill 204, the counseling compact, there were no opponents. As I mentioned, the Department of Defense came in as a proponent. Of course, your counseling associations did as well as some individual counselors. It was all very powerful, smooth testimony. I'm not even honestly sure if the people in committee even asked any questions. I mean, I don't remember. I was on the committee, but it was that easy, is what I'm saying. Certainly, there were no tough questions. It was just like, great. When can we start? So, any questions? I mean, I don't have a PowerPoint for you, but I'm delighted to take any questions you might have. Anybody there?
If you have any questions for Senator Rogner, feel free to put them in the chat or raise your hand. Yes, go ahead, Maria.
Senator Kragner, thank you for your presentation. I'd like to know, what would you say are the top 3 selling points for a state that is on the fence about this?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I'll just reiterate what I said, which is it's economic mobility for the professional. So this allows people that have the skills to cross state lines. Number one. Number 2, it increases patient access to care. So, whether you're somebody that wants to travel out of state, but you still want to talk to your doctor or your counselor from another state. I mean, this just really helps facilitate that. And it really opens up the world of healthcare, I think, for a lot of patients that otherwise wouldn't be able to access the counselor or doctor or nurse that they want to. So those are the 2 big things to me. I know you asked for 3, but honestly, it's economic mobility for the professional. It's patient access to care.
Okay, thank you.
If I come up with a 3rd one, I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Senator Rogner, I had a question, and again, if anyone has any further ones for the Senator, you can put it in the chat or just raise your hand. But I'm just kind of curious, and it may not particularly apply for the counseling compact, but as it may be helpful for other states or maybe from previous compacts that Ohio's considered, has the knowledge of states that are around Ohio been a selling point for your fellow legislators in passing the compact? How much of that is helpful for your fellow legislators to be aware of and kind of help get across the finish line?
Well, so yeah, it actually, all these compact websites, right, whether it's the nurses, doctors, physical therapists, whatever, they all seem to have a map, right? And when you go to their map, it'll show which states have introduced the legislation, which states have enacted the legislation. And that's a pretty powerful visual, because there are so many of these compacts now. The United States is mostly all colored in of states that are joining these compacts. So, nobody wants to be left out. It's just human nature. And so when you show that to your colleagues in the House and Senate, you're like, look, there are 35 other states that have already done this, or physical therapist compact. They're like, oh shoot, they don't want to be the one that's left behind. So I think it really, once it builds momentum, and not just so your question was neighbor states, but neighbor states are great, yes, but it's also the entire United States that's piling onto this, and that's also, I think, why the Department of Defense is so excited about it.
All right, great, thank you. Any further questions for the senator?
I love questions. You have to